Good morning. Ahlan wa sahlan. Ni hao. A warm welcome to our esteemed guests, speakers, and partners. Thank you for being here with us on our second Gulf Business Breakfast Briefing of 2025, focused on innovation and emerging technologies. This year is already shaping up to be a landmark one for us at Gulf Business. We are proud to kick off 2025 with a renewed focus on high-impact events like this one, bringing together the sharpest minds across telecoms, AI, cloud, and blockchain. Areas that are fast becoming the bedrock of region's economic future. We are also delighted to be an official media partner of the upcoming Middle East Blockchain Awards, scheduled to take place on 29th of April at the Jumeirah Burj Al Arab. This marks another step in our ongoing commitment to supporting the innovation ecosystem and championing emerging industries across the region. We'll be sharing more of these partnerships and initiatives in the coming weeks. But if you'd like to learn more, please do not hesitate to reach out to me or my team over here directly today. Once again, thank you for being here. We hope you enjoy the morning's discussion and find them as thought-provoking and forward-looking as the industries they represent. Before I hand over to our group editor, Gareth Wenzeel, please join me in watching a video featuring our partners XLGP and MEBA 2025. Thank you.
On behalf of the Gulf Business team, I'd like to extend a warm thank you to all of you who have made it through here today, through the Dubai traffic, to our distinguished guests, our brilliant speakers, and our valued partners, Iwan and Karma, for joining us this morning. We're back here in Dubai, in one of the most forward-looking cities in the world, to spotlight the technologies shaping the next wave of economic transformation across the region. This week, Dubai is hosting its inaugural AI Week, a landmark initiative under the patronage of His Highness Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Crown Prince of Dubai. The event has already drawn over 10,000 participants from over 100 countries, featuring high-level summits, global competitions, and policy forums. It's a testament to Dubai's commitment to positioning itself as a global hub for AI innovation and governance that we are all here today. And it is against this backdrop that we have our panel event today under the theme, The Next Wave of Innovation. Today's event will explore some of the most powerful forces shaping our industries and societies, from telecoms and AI to blockchain and cloud computing. Each of these sectors is undergoing a seismic change. And today we're also joined by some of the sharpest minds who are not just observing these changes, but driving them as well. So the UAE continues to push boundaries, not just as a test bed for new ideas, but also as a global standard setter. These aren't abstract trends, they're driving business models, redefining customer experiences, and shaping regulatory frameworks in real time. Events like this one are essential because they allow us to pause, take stock, and hear from the experts and operators leading the charge. They also give us the space to network, collaborate, and who knows, maybe even spark that next big partnership. So this is the second Gulf Business Breakfast briefing of this year, and we're proud to be creating a platform where CEOs, regulators, and innovators can connect in person and have real conversations about the future of business. Your feedback also continues to shape how this series goes, and I'd like to thank everyone who has supported us along the way. If you find today insightful, please stay plugged in. We've got many more business breakfast briefings happening throughout the year as well. So we've got an outstanding agenda here for you today. We will begin with the Telecoms and Cloud panel, which will be moderated by my colleague Neesha Salian, the editor at Gulf Business. She'll be joined by Iwan Stella from Ericsson, Cherian Varghese at Oracle, Samar Mittal of Nokia, and Samir Jamil of Huawei. Following that, we'll hear a special keynote from Mazen Nahawi, the founder and group CEO of Karma, who will be talking about AI and the impact that it's having, especially on data, reputation, and innovation. And then we'll also be having a panel straight after that in which I'll be moderating, where we will hear from the likes of Vasudha Khandeparkar of Grand Thornton, Andries Hasselhoff of Omburi, Mark Dimmock of SC Ventures, and again Mazen Nahawi, who will be back with us on that one. Then we're on to an exciting blockchain channel where we have Kakila Allah of Calm Legal, who will be moderating that particular session. She'll be joined by Rafad Mahasna of OKX Mina, Alice Liu of CoinMarketCap, Faisal Zadi of Escape, Akos Osa of BitOasis, and Shanu Chowan of Multibank. So please stay with us to the end. There will be opportunities for Q&As at the end of each of these panel sessions. Also, please remember to follow Gulf Business on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, and Facebook, where you'll find some of our latest highlights. If you visit our website as well, you can subscribe to our email newsletter, which goes out every day. And a heartfelt thank you to all of you who have made it through here today. We are now going to play a special video that shows the journey that Gulf Business has been on for almost 3 decades. Thank you very much.
In the dynamic landscape of the GCC region, one publication has been the trusted companion for businesses, industry leaders, and professionals for over 2 decades. Gulf Business brings you the pulse of the region's industries, growth stories, news and developments, and so much more. Gulf Business is the most authoritative source for comprehensive insights in the region. From finance to technology, real estate to healthcare, and hospitality to energy, we cover it all. The Gulf Business team is always on the clock to bring you in-depth articles, interviews, and exclusive features to keep you in the know. Our magazine boasts a rich history of captivating covers and compelling content, from the latest market trends and investment opportunities to emerging technologies and regulatory developments. Gulf Business is your gateway to the Middle East's thriving business landscape. But we don't just report the news, we celebrate excellence. Gulf Business is renowned for its prestigious annual awards, recognizing outstanding achievements across various industries. Our esteemed Gulf Business Awards honor visionary leaders, innovative companies, and game-changing initiatives that shape the future of business in the GCC region. In the digital era, Gulf Business goes beyond print. Our online platform provides instant access to breaking news, industry analysis, and exclusive interviews, keeping you connected wherever you are. For more than 2 decades, Gulf Business has been the beacon of business intelligence in the GCC region. Join the countless professionals, entrepreneurs, and industry leaders who rely on us for timely, accurate, and relevant information. Gulf Business, celebrating a legacy of presenting news beyond the headlines.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. So we're now going to lead into our first panel of the day, which is a focus on the latest innovations that are happening within the telecoms and cloud space. It's no longer just about connectivity when it comes to telecoms and cloud. This is because companies are transforming into techcos, enabling everything from smart cities to AI ecosystems. At the same time, telecoms and clouds is becoming a strategic priority for governments and businesses, especially with the rise of sovereign needs and new regulatory frameworks. So to unpack this next session for us, I'd like to welcome onto stage the editor of Gulf Business, Neesha Salian. If you can please give her a warm round of applause. And joining her is Iwan Stella, who is the Head of Strategy and Commercial Management at Ericsson, Middle East and Africa. Then we have Cherian Varghese, who is the Senior Vice President for AI and Cloud Infrastructure, EMEA at Oracle. And joining him is Samar Mittal, who is the Vice President for EMEA Head of Cloud and Network Services at Nokia. And finally, we have Samir Jamil, the Chief Technology Architect at Huawei, Middle East and Central Asia. Thank you very much. A warm round of applause for everyone. If I can just ask you, when you speak, if you can just switch on your microphones as well. Thank you very much.
Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome our guests and our esteemed panel of experts here to join in on the conversation on telecoms and cloud, the next frontier. I think this is a very timely and relevant discussion, considering that digital transformation has become a national imperative for the UAE and wider GCC region. Across the GCC, we see countries sort of investing a lot in 5G infrastructure. They're also setting ambitious roadmaps for 6G, sovereign cloud development. We see telcos becoming digital service powerhouses and not just carriers of connectivity, but also enabling sort of smart cities, AI infrastructure, and cloud-first economic models. And I think that the foundation for this, or the factors that are driving this, are groundbreaking innovations like 5G-A. We've got autonomous networks. We've got embedded AI and cloud-native architecture. But the rapid transition, I think, also raises a lot of questions, which I hope you can answer today. So just to kick off this conversation, and the most important thing is that we are at the threshold of 5G-A. And we're already talking about the conversation shifting to 6G. So how are your organizations sort of preparing for this leap? And what, in your view, will set 6G truly apart from what we have today? So we could start off with Samir. Yes, you could just turn that on. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you, Neesha, and thank you, Gulf Business, for inviting us for a talk about, the promising future technology. We talk about cloud and network. So before I talk about 5G-A, I would like to just take 1 minute before because 5G-A is a foundation, is going to be part of like the 5G legacy. And how 5G is setting the paradigm shift for and setting the new goals for 5G-A, that's something we need to look at, that how things are evolving. So in 5G, we looked at that how things have moved from traffic monetization to experience monetization. So the operators are more working on the kind of applications where they talk about the deterministic SLA for the consumer. So it's more focused on the 2B business. I'm in 2C business, but for the kind of applications like the live streaming, we talk about maybe like concert or large gathering, where we were still, as a individual, we still struggle to when we are sharing our videos on that live network with a big gathering. We still get into a lot of problems by still sending those videos. So operators in Middle East and some other part of the world, they're already working on the experience monetization, where they make sure the individual customers are getting the right bandwidth, and they can have a seamless experience of communicating or sharing the data and so on. Similarly, if you look at the 5G-A, it's not only a sustainable network, but it's more, or talk about how the connectivity will be more seamless for the 2C customers and also for the 2B customers, because 5G-A is setting the high requirement for the bandwidth when we talk about the download link, which is going up to 10 Gbps, and uplink is almost like between 1 or 2 Gbps. That is the fundamental requirement for having a low latency network requirement for the applications which we are talking about, because now we already into artificial intelligence generated content. We are talking about the AGI, like artificial generated general intelligence. So those applications require high bandwidth and low latency network, which is set by the 5G-A, and plus the more focus on the 2B industry, which we're talking about the smart cities, we talk about smart industries, smart manufacturing, or smart agriculture, or you talk about any vertical industry, and those kind of industries needs to have high bandwidth, which is promising by 5G-A. And plus, we talk about the applications like autonomous vehicle, V2X, and like the precision in predictive maintenance. Those kind of applications require this kind of network, which is there for 5G-A. And then obviously there's an innovation as Huawei is doing into 6G, which is I think by 2030, we'll be setting up the foundation and standard for 6G with 3GPP. Yeah.
That's good to hear, and we look forward to hearing more about that.
Yes.
Samar, if you could talk about how AI network autonomy was foundational to 6G readiness and how that Nokia is working.
I think I'll pick up the phrase that was shown today. Where is this technology leading us? We had 3 decades back started with 2G, leapfrog to 3G, 4G, 5G, and now we are already talking about 6G. So all these technologies, and now especially with 5G, 5G-A, and 6G, what we are trying to strive as an industry, it's precision and performance. And if you really relate to the way we are into this technology, spectrum is like a landmass, which is very scarce. So if the spectrum is what it is, we have to create the maximum opportunity out of the landmass or the spectrum that is available for us, for the end consumers. For end consumers, it's all about getting the right information with the right speed, with the right quality. And unfortunately, these days, almost every time, every second, in every corner of where they are performing their workplace or where they're performing their work in that context. So when we talk about 6G from a Nokia standpoint, right? So 6G and any technology will be defined, or the success of these technologies is being defined by introducing the services which are consumer friendly. Operators or CSPs are able to monetize them, and at the same time create an infrastructure which is zero trust based from a security standpoint. And all this can only be achieved if you have making use of the best infrastructure on the cloud side, be it cloud native, especially having microservices, which helps to introduce these solutions pretty quickly into the market, because there is no one single killer applications. Gone are the days, we as an industry have been searching for one single killer application. Unfortunately, it's not there, which means we have to churn out the use cases, the applications, be it B2C, be it B2B, pretty quickly. And that's where Nokia's autonomous networks is helping industry, is helping introducing not only faster time to the market, but also providing efficiency, which helps to introduce services pretty quickly and in a very cost-effective way. So all in all, making use of artificial intelligence into these cloud-native microservices architectures, having an architecture which is zero trust based on the security side, and at the same time, enabling the networks to introduce these services pretty quickly will be the mantra, again going back to precision and performance. That's what we are, as an industry, should be endeavoring towards, and that's what we at Nokia are really pushing it very hard in all spheres of technology and trying to touch almost every consumer in a different way so that we are able to add value to the industry.
Well, thank you. Just to take off from here, and Iwan, if you could tell us about Ericsson's long-term strategy as well, and the sustainability-focused sort of roadmap to 6G, if you could shed some light on that.
Sure, and it's very nice to be here.
Thank you.
And I also appreciate the fact that you started all the day with the telco part, because there is a tremendous need everywhere as a personal interest, as individuals, as citizens, and as also companies, to have the platform in place to have communication and to communicate each other in whatever form is possible using a digital platform. So I think that today we are on really on the inception point where the technology maturity is, has reached a level where the end user can experience seamlessly the digital universe. We have seen also, in different networks now live that are powered through Ericsson technology, and also in some very crucial events like Mobile World Congress, LEAP, or GITEX, where our operators that we are working with are showcasing what having a 5G standalone technology enables. You can, with that technology, connect everything in a seamless way, everything that can benefit from a connection. So, and that for everyone in this room and also beyond, it's a must-have. So that is what Ericsson is all about, to give you the highest performance. You should not even think about it because it works. So I think that is the foundation. Then when it comes to 5G advanced that we have introduced today, and maybe the journey towards the next G, I think that what 5G advanced is bringing the capability through software to have intent-based in everything that we do. And you can complement it with, of course, now is a buzzword, with AI. But that means that you can, through natural language, ask the network and even your mobile very soon to give you a different experience. And then that is deployed seamlessly across all the layers of the network. You don't even need to think about it. The operator doesn't need to think about it because it's automated. It's everything through software, cloud native and modular approach, and the highest level of security. And with that, you can access, all the advanced functionalities, low latency, low loss, and high scalability. And this is for the end user, but this will become even more relevant, especially in the Gulf area, where the spectrum is controlled by the operator, to provide this capability to the enterprise world. And also in what we call the mission critical situations where you can have police or other authorities that they can have access to real-time upstream and downstream capabilities, and you can unlock a lot of things. Yeah, so I think that is the journey. I'm not so much into marketing 6G or the next G, because I think we still have issues to sunset in the old Gs. That our operators, in many cases, they are reluctant to do it because they need to change all the ecosystem of terminals. And I think if we can help operators to churn the terminal ecosystem faster, they can save a lot of money and move the experience of everyone into the latest technology and unlock really capability to monetize it.
Well, you read my mind, because the next question is there going to be any challenges to this? But thank you so much for answering that. And so Cherian, I just want, if you could weigh in on this, but will this shift to 6G accelerate cloud adoption across regions? And what do you think about that?
Neesha, very good morning.
Yeah,
good morning to all of you. 100%, no two brainers about it. All the operators who are going to modify their networks, they are going to build this world-class 6G or even beyond, will need world-class infrastructure. And what we do as Oracle is provide that cloud infrastructure. we were born as a company trying to hold gold, which is data. We were born a data company. And from the time of being in that operator world, we have tried to see data in a new insight, new world, and translate into different part. What we're now seeing is the telco's journey, which is really moving to modernize their cloud, to be ready to provide services around AI, produce data, produce ability to take that data from the existing systems, whether it's on the OSS side, BSS side, and then provide that gold to their consumers. Find new market segment, new services. All that is at the back of having a world-class cloud infrastructure. Having world-class cloud infrastructure also enables you in your AI journey. You're able to build world-class LLMs. You're able to infer the customer data better, and thereby you will find that the entire technology loops get complete with all these products together. So that's where we find the promise of this new economy coming up with the marriage of techcos and telcos together, right?
Which is exciting news, and you know that brings me to my second question as well. That we've been talking about telcos moving to techcos for a few years, and it's really happening now. But what does this transformation sort of really demand from technology, culture, partnerships perspective? If you could give us a little bit.
I think this partnership has brought forefront of data sovereignty. That's what we find that it's happening. All the countries are in the race to build sovereign data for themselves. And nobody's going to trust their data with a third party, third country, or anybody else. And being national carriers, being local providers, they become the foundation of holding the sovereign data. As an organization, we are helping to build that sovereign cloud for the country. We are helping the telcos be the provider for that. And most important, the revenue in traditional telco forms is drying off. So they are trying to find new avenues of revenue generation. The new cloud services, the new sovereign cloud services are able to provide anywhere from 100 to 200 new services to their consumers. And customers just love it. So I think this is the new rebirth time by the whole telco world to bring in new revenues, understand the new realm of reality, be the country's national providers. And last but not the least, if you see from an AI perspective, the country will propagate and show data in the shape and which you want to show. Your data will be different than the other's data.
Right.
You will see numerous examples of world maps being changed, everything else. So countries will try to evolve and show their shapes of geopolitics and geoeconomics through this LLM power. And that plays the telcos, the telecom providers, the operators will play a key role in this journey. This is what we think.
Well, thank you for your input on that. And coming to Samir, can you weigh in on this?
Yeah, I agree with Cherian. It's a very interesting development for telcos to be becoming a techco or becoming more digital service provider. So in industry, we are hearing about this digital transformation, but from telecom perspective, I think the real changes is coming now in the last couple of years. They are really taking the journey of digital transformation. Before, it was more digitization within their internal organization and because focus is more for their consumers, consumer applications or consumer voice and data services. But now, as operators are moving more into digital service provider, so they are focusing on three main pillars. One is the intelligence. They need to bring intelligence into their infrastructure, their operations, and the customer engagement platforms. And then obviously as a second layer, they need to build a platform which is serving not only the 2C customers, but the 2B customers. Because for 2B, it's a market requirement segments is very large. When it comes to the cloud services or maybe connectivity plus IoT, we talk about now more AI-based services, which is more required by those vertical industries, right? So that is the second pillar which they are building. And last but not least is about the service, which is more important to cover from different perspectives. So if we look at, I think, the recent example by, let's say, Etisalat or Zentech, they're evolving into digital service provider within Middle East. Like we have a big example in European region and West and also South Asia. Within China as well. But looking at great example from, let's say, EMEA, they are shifting from this telco to techco by doing a lot of acquisitions. So they are becoming like SV companies, to where they are promising to deliver the service, not just giving the platform, but also giving them the service as a turnkey. Because if you look at, pick up one industry, let's say transportation, their requirement is from drones to autonomous vehicle to maybe smart intelligence cameras and all those kind of requirements that cannot be served by only one entity. So they are doing a lot of ecosystem collaboration where they're building kind of those digital platform and applications for those specific industries where they can serve them end to end. So I think that's a great initiative, because telcos has this connectivity asset, and building that, putting that as a connectivity plus cloud plus AI now, and I think this is more helpful for the digital transformation, for the digital economy altogether.
Okay, well, good to hear about that too as well. We'll move to Iwan, and if you could talk about how customer-centric innovation is key to this shift as well.
No, absolutely. Well, we should always start from the customer. The customer can be, our business customer, but it could be also the consumers or the enterprises. And what are the customer requirements today and for the future? They require dynamic access to whatever they want. Real-time access, they want to have differentiated connectivity and pay differently also when they use a service compared to another. So I think that that is sorry, that is what Ericsson R&D is all about. We are investing massively into this. Because we are strongly believing that we need to anticipate the next needs of our customers. So we are not following the demand, the direct demand. We need to anticipate the next one. That's why you need to have innovation, because innovation means you come out with something that no one was expecting, or they were asking for something, but you really solved the problem. So I think this is the philosophy, and that's why we are strongly believing in the cloud native solution and modularity, and we are working very closely with the entire ecosystem. We have a very close collaboration with Oracle and others because we are integrating things in order to have an open platform. Why open is important? Because it allows to scale down and to have modularity, integrate things, having pre-tested, pre-integrated, and you can be faster to market. By doing this, you can serve your customers that want much more automated things. They want to see things and to, instead of operate them or to waste 12 months to make a software upgrades, you should do it instantaneously on the node continuously. So that is why it will take a little bit of time, because you need to change the entire philosophy on how you design the network, how you design modularity. You need to go out of a closed system. And as it was said, zero trust by design, and also working super closely with regulators, embedding GDPRs into our solution when you design them. That guarantees to all of you and all of us in this room that your data are protected, because that is what it's really important. We need to know where our digital identity is, not only as individual, but also as an enterprise, for example. Imagine an airport as an entity. Of course, they want to have control on all the data that they have, because that is a source of monetization for them as well. So data security is really crucial going forward. And that's why we are designing the platform designed by security. And I think that is what we need to be also much better when we discuss with our customers, also publicly. So that's really good actually to have also this round table, because then you can go to the essence of the need of the industry.
Well, thank you, Ivan. Samar, if the mic's working. Who among the telcos do you think is doing a good job of incorporating all of what your colleagues said? If you can give us a few examples.
Well, globally there are many, right? If you really talk about the industries, I think everywhere the progress is being made in different spheres of the technology and in different spheres of what the end consumer and the end market is demanding. If you talk about countries like India, where the scale is as big as it is, we're talking about close to 1 billion consumers. So there, the essence has been how to get the most efficient solution with the spectrum available, because the usage is by far in a very different sphere of environment when we're dealing with the networks that we're dealing with. So their efficiency and at the same time power, and as has been alluded by all the panelists, automations, because with such scale you need to do a lot of things in different ways. So a lot of operators in India, in fact all three of them have progressed, and of course we all know where the Jio and the Bhartis of the world are at this point in time. If you come back globally to Americas, they have been into different technologies. Earlier they were into alternate technologies. Now with all the GSM and the 5G rollouts, they were the first to roll out the 5G to the scale that they did. And now they've taken the next leap in terms of automating their entire network and also creating, as we call it, quad play, wherein they are serving on the fixed side, they are serving on the mobile side, then they're serving on the B2B side, and at the same time they are serving on micro industries as well. So that's another advancement of technology that has happened in that part of the world. Coming closer to where we are these days, here as well, with all the demands in certain parts of Middle East and Africa, the scale is way too big, and at the same time, the geographies are very difficult to operate and roll out. There as well, a lot of industry solutions, both on the radio side, on the cloud side, have been evolving. And now with all the data centers, coming over within the Middle East and the African areas, the way the flexibility can be introduced and is being introduced by companies like Nokia as well in that context is that what we are trying to do is provide flexibility in terms of choosing any infrastructure on the cloud side. We are partnering with all the hyperscalers. We talk about AWS, you talk about Google, you talk about Microsoft, and at the same time, we are also able to provide flexibility on applications to be ported on legacy cloud networks, because there is a lot of networks out here where we have legacy cloud networks as well, where operators are choosing their own infrastructure layer or CAS layer, as we call it. And with the introduction of microservices, with the introduction of Kubernetes-based solutions and seamless integration, the technology is providing a lot to the CSPs, which in turn can provide a lot to the consumers. And here, as has already been alluded to, Etisalat, Due, even in operators in Saudi, you talk about operators in Qatar, they are really taking a lot of advancement into this era because they see value in it. And at the same time, we as industry and we as technology providers have an onus to give back to the industry who's given back so much to the world. So we're touching the world, and that's where the evolution of technology is happening in many different ways. I would say Gulf is progressing much faster than other parts of Africa, but they are also leapfrogging, learning fast and leapfrogging, because that's the only way this industry can evolve, transform, as was talked about in the morning, and survive to create much more value for all of us together.
Well, thank you, Samar. And it's you've touched on key points: innovation, partnerships, and a customer-centric sort of approach, which will bring us to our next point, is about data sovereignty and security, which will move to the forefront. What role is the sovereign cloud sort of playing in enabling both innovation and protection across the region's telecom and cloud ecosystem? Cherian, we could start with you if you could weigh in on this, please.
Sovereignty as a topic has gained tremendous traction in the last couple of years, you would have realized that a few years back, EU set the first sovereign cloud. And they were the flag bearers to say that based on EU regulations, we will have a sovereign cloud. This was fast-tracked by sovereignty, especially in the Middle East. We first saw that in Saudi. We immediately seeing that in UAE, and the others are following. Bahrain is also setting up something on their own. And the best part is the sovereignty cloud is now going all the way into Africa. We've just signed something in Morocco. But what I want to say is that sovereign cloud are country identities today. The sovereign clouds for country will be the flagship. They will tell the story of that country in the way and shape they want to show it to the world. The data has to be regulated, the data is to be protected, and all in the realms of that telco provider. So when we talk about sovereignty per country, governments are not taking the initiative to set up large data centers. They are not going to set up large power coolings, etc. So who is the next best custodian of it is probably the telco. So the telco is at that flagship. They will become the de facto sovereign cloud provider across all the countries. So maybe in the future, if you see 196 countries and 196 sovereign clouds, very high possibility. Of late, from a geopolitical standpoint, you will also find, as I already alluded, it's very important to share the narrative of your culture and identity in the way you want to say it. You don't want to be influenced in the history in which an American society would like to say. I would like to say in a UAE perspective, in an Arabic culture, in my own language, in my own form. So I think that sovereign cloud protection, identity, putting world-class data center, and thereby passing that regulations towards a sovereign place is the next era, what we are now trying to see, socialize it across all the Gulf. And the best part of it, Middle East is at the forefront of it, right? Both the providers, whether it was Etisalat or Du, and everybody else are at the forefront. So
well, that's exciting news. And Samar, how would you sort of weigh on this and give us
I guess the number would be maybe double, triple of the sovereign cloud, because there are more than one operator in each country. So I think that there's another way of looking at it, that maybe sovereign cloud is like avoiding the hyperscalers in one way, but that's on the lighter side. We look at after GDPR, the regulatory driven by European Union, right? And we see the same trend in the GCC as well now, and they're making it as a national policy for the sovereign data governance and data compliance and regulatory. And now the same is coming down to all the organizations working in these countries, like from telco to banking sector or manufacturing or retail, everyone. And it's not only about the sovereign cloud, but it's more about having those kind of services which is providing the real-time collaboration on the nearby kind of edge compute. And if you look at the Flexera report or from some other analysts, there's a lot of repatriation is happening because of certain reasons. One is the top reason is the security. Another is the performance SLA. And all those clients or the organizations who went to hyperscalers like AWS, Google, or Microsoft Azure, they are coming back because of these reasons. And I think there's a big space for all these telco providers or the service provider to build their own national clouds where they can not only provide the data sovereignty within in country, but they can also provide kind of services which is required by the industry, because that cannot be fulfilled by the public cloud provider or hyperscalers, because geographically their data centers are located in different countries, and for that reason the latency is much higher when the organization connects to their workload or trying to serve their customers or serve their business or running their operations. So for that reason, there's a lot of kind of understanding and awareness within GCC operators to become as a national cloud, not only providing the services to their consumer, to let's say large enterprises or SMEs, but also government emphasis is there. We launch as a Huawei is providing and covering this large scale kind of a national cloud agenda with a lot of operators in the region, and because not a single provider can serve all sort of services. So there has to be kind of a hybrid, a multi-cloud within in country who can provide all sort of services, starting from the infrastructure as a service, goes up to SaaS and PaaS. Now already we're talking about the X as a service, or everything as a service, or maybe AI as a service, which is again have a requirement of the time to build native applications, which not only using the AI as a foundation, but the platform as a collaborator.
Okay. Yeah. What's your take on this, Samar?
Yeah, so I think we've discussed a lot about the cloud. Again, I'll go back a little bit on automation and then come back to this this overall perspective as well, which is already very well said about it. But if you really talk about cloud technology and automation, right? It's the fully autonomous networks which will yield the right result, which will protect the data, as has been talked about, which will protect a lot on the flexibility side and also provide a lot of use cases. And if you see from Nokia's standpoint, this transformation journey on these technology elements, we've kind of earmarked the whole thing basis the TM forum, solutions that we have. So from an automation standpoint, we have, it's the entire forum, or the TM forum has defined it from L0 till L4 perspectives. And most of the operators globally still are pondering around L0, L1, L2. That's the kind of solutions that most of the transformation journey operators are. And that's where these automation, where we've evolved and modeled the whole thing as Nokia on sense, think, and act. And that's where these cloud solutions will help us travel this journey into a very different world. We'll talk about more on the automation as we move ahead into the industry. But if you really have a how to say, analogy around it, we used to have a lot of fire breaks around us by a simple thing, as in a simple short circuit, which is, we used to have wired fuses at that time. A simple introduction of circuit breaker has helped us to evolve and get rid of most of the fire hazards that we've seen around us ourselves. And that's where, if you really see, what does a circuit breaker do? It senses the heat, it thinks, and cuts the electricity off. And that's what we need to do in our cloud native, in our cloud solutions that we're moving ahead, wherein we should sense as to what is happening into the network. And how can we sense? We have so much of data available. Be it local cloud, be it content, be it customer experience, be it on the spectrum usage, and also in terms of various use cases. And that's where, with the artificial intelligence and the generative AI algorithms, we've been able to utilize this information, integrate into the cloud native microservice Kubernetes technologies, along with the use cases, where we can take this data, ingest into various use cases, think about it, and at the same time, act on it. And that's where a lot of efficiency, a lot of all these use cases that we've talked about will come into forefront, and we'll be able to add a lot of value into the industry. And again, the success of this will depend upon the integration of all these solutions into all these efficient algorithms, and looking forward from a consumer standpoint, which also has been talked about, and providing them the right experience at the right time so that they can see value in all these technologies that is being laid down by all our industry players.
Ivan, if you'd like to talk about the security aspect, I know we discussed that. Yes. So.
Yeah, before maybe going into security, I want just everyone to reflect on why cloud. We are talking a lot about the cloud. It looks like a nice name, but cloud is answering a concrete need, that is to move workload in a dynamic way across the network, and to have this dynamic allocation and modularity and abstract functions that you can program through software. That's enabling a lot of cost savings. It's allowing speed, and it's allowing also to dynamically open the platform through the API to the entire ecosystem, so you can really have a programmable network. So that's why this is an important evolution of the network that needs to become cloud native. Then, if they are sovereign cloud or public cloud, that depends, of course, on the government, the regulator, the operator choices, because another element that is really crucial to always consider, and it's sometimes neglected, is that a network infrastructure or the platform is a strategic national infrastructure. And governments and authority, in many cases, they have not fully grasped the implication. You know, it's a decision that will shape your future for the next decades. Because all your data, all your workload, everything that can be connected, as I started in the beginning, will transit in that network. All the data will be there. So when you decide how to build it, you need to have leadership. Yeah? And I see, for example, here in the UAE or Gulf in general, there is a lot of regulation, but there is a very future-looking vision supported by strong leadership. So the decisions are done in a way to, it's not only to be number one, but it's to be number one to serve the citizen in the country. And that's why security is so crucial, and we need to design, as I said in the beginning, our networks on security. And security means that you need to have modularity, you have to have transparency in the network. You need also to think where those networks come from and where they end. So because that is very much a country strategic decision on how you want to handle your citizen, your enterprise, the entire ecosystem, healthcare, oil, all the industries together. So that's why security is really in the center going forward, and it's not just cybersecurity, it's much more than that.
Well, I could sit and talk a lot about this, as I've said, but just so that we can quickly sort of, technology is not going to wait, and I think that we've got autonomous networks that are now being talked about. So very briefly and quickly, if you could tell us, what is the technology driving these networks that can think, sense, and act, and then we could wrap up with.
Okay, so I think technology is here to serve us, not vice versa. And that's why I emphasize a lot the leadership aspect. I think also wherever you work, wherever you live, you need to look for leadership. You need to have a clear vision, and you need to understand where you want to go, and then you mobilize the entire resources in the ecosystem to go there. And technology in this moment is on a tipping point, as I said, because the capability of the networks that we have today is unprecedented, and it has reached, why I use tipping point, because you need many years to reach seamless experience. Now we are, for the first time in human history, in a position where you can have seamless experience through a digital device or a digital sensor or whatever. So now the responsibility on how you deploy those devices and how you use them and how you also move machine learning capability closer to the device, closer to yourself, and closer to the enterprise is, I would say, and I don't want to exaggerate, but it's the first time in human history that we needed to take dramatic decisions, and technology needs to be understood. So that's why also, as Ericsson, we work a lot on responsible growth in sustainability, and also to have a lot of partnership with students, university, and entities, where we need also to have everyone to understand the technology, because Think about AI. If you don't understand what AI is, you cannot unleash it without thinking. It's like unleashing something without knowing what will happen. So you need to understand what's happening. And there is a lot of responsibility, I think, on all of us because we are developing those technologies and I would say provisioning a lot of things in our daily life that will be connected and extracting data and utilizing data. So you can, it's only our fantasy that is going to block us on the capability that we have in the future. So to sum up, I think technology is here to serve us. We need the leadership because technology needs to be for good.
Well, that's a good point to make, Samar. Come to you.
Yeah, so I'll, again, rephrase the whole thing as in sense, think, and act. So from Nokia standpoint, we have our data suite solutions, which are taking the data inputs from all the various sources, accumulating and creating algorithms to act on it. Then we also have our digital operations, where we're doing a lot of automation, provisioning, closed-loop perspectives, all these events that happen around us. Imagine the kind of networks we have to kind of implement on real-time basis all the various spectrums and all the various use cases, and at the same time traffic leading to all these events that that we're having around us has to be done in a very automatic way. Otherwise, it'll take its own time and create a lot of cost. And lastly, we talked about the security, the zero trust architecture, as we call it. That's where our award-winning Cyberdome solution is adding a lot of value into the industry, which is based on cloud native and at the same time artificial intelligence algorithms. And just one use case as an example, as I mentioned, right?
Sorry, if I can just ask you just to very quickly.
One liner.
This time is not on our
Yeah,
side.
I was about to end there. So circuit breaker created so much of value into the industry. Automation networks will leapfrog the industry into a very, very different level, adding value to consumers and at the same time adding value to the CSPs.
30 seconds, and Samar.
Yeah, I think as Iwan mentioned that we are at the tipping point of the technology, and I think next 5 years is going to be a completely change when it comes to how we communicate with each other, how we do our businesses, right? We talk about AI agents now. I think in next 5 years, 6G is going to be revolutionized about this kind of the way we act, the way we do communication. And secondly, the thing is how the things are evolving from that perspective. It's a completely paradigm shift for the technology. Yeah.
Sure.
It's just a tripod of success. Telecom, cloud, and AI together will make the new wave of innovation.
Well, thank you so much. And do we have time for questions? Maybe not.
Maybe not, because we are running a bit late.
Well,
but thank you very much,
thank you very
gentlemen.
much.
If you can have
Thank
a
you,
warm round
guys.
of
Thank you.
applause. Thank you, Neesha, for moderating that session as well. Really fascinating stuff. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So, in the interest of time, thank you so much, everyone. We are going to swiftly move on to our next segment, which is our keynote speech, which will be by Mazen Nahawi, who is the founder and group CEO of Karma. He's going to be telling us about AI, data, and market intelligence. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. All right, great. Well, I'll try to be brief, and thank you to our previous speakers. They talked a lot about cloud and AI. I'm really going to try to talk about a key element of our AI, which is about trust. Thank you. Trust and reputation. The part which all of the cloud and the network delivers, but where the AI comes to life when you're talking as a customer or as an end user. So what do we refer to AI? I won't take too much time over here. We all know this comes from an old technology. Machine learning, NLP, they are not new developments. They've been around for a very long time. thanks to our colleagues who were on the panel a moment ago, we've been able to create the speed and processing power and the big data applications which allow us to take all of that learning to a new level. So we know we're talking about the processing of large data sets across all forms of media which feed into public opinion and reputation creation. We all know that today, when we look at our children, when we look at our marketing departments, our BI tools, our social media partners, we're being able to see the creation of content in a way which has never been done before, whether it be in the generation of text, reports, images, or even video, and it's an exciting time. Many people are worried about jobs, we'll talk about that in a moment, but that's an early glimpse into the kind of content creation that we're looking at. What does that do? When you're talking about content, it's feeding into reputation, into perception, into how people look at data, engage with it, and how that might impact your brand. But a big part of trust is knowing what AI can and cannot do. We need to trust what AI can and should do, and we should be wary of what it cannot or should not do. So while we know it has technical powers, as you can see on the screen, I think we're going to talk about what it cannot do for a moment. Things like capturing nuance. It can do that to a certain extent, but not fully, especially if there are words or images which aren't going to be easily detected through a prompt, a chatbot, or some kind of keyword matching technology. Things like providing strategic counsel. Today, we're finding clients in our world who are making it very clear in an RFP process they don't want any AI input. Imagine that. And many of our biggest clients are tech clients. Things like integrating public opinion data, which is emotive in nature, going and asking people, well, what did you feel about that? In the world of market research, for example, we have a new trend being built around synthetic data, which means taking all of the opinion data from millions of interviews around the world and creating an AI database which will allow you to predict or mine opinion trends from the past and predict them for the future. But guess what? They're proving to be the most inaccurate models in the history of market research. We need to be aware of that. This is a really key item, which I think Iwan referred to before. What is the quality of your data? What is the quality of your security around that data? It's a very important point. One of the big flaws in AI today is that data sources are not properly verified. Any one of us right here, right now, can feed any kind of LLM, MLM, or any kind of AI database, any one of us. And we can do it at scale. And we all know there are bad actors who do it at scale. But you know what? Even the platforms aren't verifying that data. So many of you are probably aware that the New York Times, big publisher, sued OpenAI because OpenAI took and scraped a lot of New York Times information from digital editions of the newspaper and simply said, we're going to run searches and keep that as part of our data lake. Well, guess what? They never asked for permission. So they've been sued for a couple of $2 billion, and that's going to be one example of litigation which is going to be repeated again and again and again. Major universities, libraries, even companies are going to OpenAI, they're going to Mistral, they're even going to the cloud providers and saying, take our data off or pay us for it. That's why if you found a couple of very high quality prompts with giving you results 2 years ago on ChatGPT, and you're wondering, why has the quality gone down? It's because a lot of good quality data is being removed, and a lot of bad quality data is being put in. The good quality data comes from the creators of good quality data, like Gulf Business or the New York Times. But when they start saying to OpenAI, take your data out or pay me for it, it changes the equation. We've all heard about hallucinations, and I'm not talking about partying at JBR on a Friday night. AI makes a lot of mistakes, very, very serious mistakes. So early on, in the age of AI, there were all kinds of political, social, and economic discussions. This was one that really caught my attention because it's quite close to my heart and many people in the region. Look at that prompt or that question. Do Palestinians deserve to be free? This is ChatGPT, right? The question of whether Palestinians deserve to be free is a matter of perspective, right? And it's deeply rooted in a complex blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go on. It makes me angry every time I read it, right? But how about Israelis? Do Israelis deserve to be free? Yes, Israelis, like any group of people, deserve to live in a free and secure environment, and so on and so forth. Now you might say, come on, Mazen, that's politics, we're in a business forum. Yes, it is politics, but guess what? That's your brand. That's your product. That's your service. That's you. That's your community. That's your family. Why did that happen? Why did that happen? It's because data sources were biased. They were done mainly by young dudes in California who thought, let me start with the data which I believe in, which I trust. That's why the verification of sources is so important and why data needs to be globally representative. You'll find even today, most data does not represent the emerging world. It does not represent all languages. And countries which don't have the money to build great networks, great cloud, and great AI applications, and countries which have not had the ability to document their history or to digitize their documented history are behind in the race. AI is quickly being positioned as a service for the rich and powerful. And the content being shown over there is being bent to their biases. So we need to be aware of what we're looking at and what we're playing with. So if we were to take a prompt, feel free, if you want right now or later, use your ChatGPT app on your mobile or on your Mistral app or on your Gemini app and say, draw a picture of a group of watches showing the time 3 minutes past 12. Feel free to use it right now if you want. Or just say, show me a picture of a watch showing the time 3:30 or 4:30 or 5:30. You'll be interested by what you're going to get. Most likely, the majority of you are going to get something which looks like that. Why? The time shows 10:10. Okay? That's because the big makers of watches in the world believe that the time 10:10 is the most visually pleasing representation of a watch face. And for the past generation of our digital lives, they have been feeding Google, Bing, and every form of digital library with photos showing 10:10 on the time. So even if you ask for 3:30 or 5:30, most of the time you're going to get a picture showing it's 10:10. That's AI in 2025. Similarly, if I say, show me a picture of someone writing or drawing, but with their left hand, you're most likely going to get an image of someone writing or drawing with their right hand. So those of us who are data geeks and we love data training and model training, we all know about the concept of data reinforcement. 9 out of 10 of the people on our planet write with their right hand. So whenever you see pictures being uploaded into the internet of people writing or drawing, it's with their right hand. So guess what AI does? It says, well, 90% of the time, the answer is someone with the right hand. That's how stupid AI can be. Okay? I'm not saying it's 100% of the time, but most of the time, that's what you'll get. Now again, think about your brand. Think about your company. Think about your family. Think about yourself. This is what you are facing right now. In fact, we are seeing more and more what I call data reinforcement wars between Fortune 500 companies. Let's give the example of a few beverage companies who right now are trashing their competitors by throwing so much rubbish about them out into cyberspace. That's an old 90s term, right? But what are they actually doing? They are reinforcing negative perceptions of a competing brand. And you know what? Nobody can stop them. There's no police out there that says, take that down. So yes, the biggest companies in the world are able to hire those shadow marketing units to trash the brand or the product of a competitor and reinforce AI to give wrong results. Ultimately, and I think, again, our colleague from Ericsson mentioned, technology should be here to serve us. I believe that AI cannot keep up with the human mind and human spirit. That's a quick picture of my mother and my youngest of 6 children, Lara. So my mother speaks in a Palestinian accent from a town named Safad, which is near Nazareth. I went to a French Jesuit school named Shweifat in Sharjah over here in the 1970s. And my daughter Lara goes to the American School of Dubai in Barsha. We're all on a WhatsApp group, so we talk every day. My mother will write to me in a very thick Galilean mountain accent. I will write back to her with what I call a Shweifati accent. A little bit of English, a little bit of Arabic, a little bit of French, and then Lara will respond to all of us with emojis. Okay? But what does that tell you? You've got one family in a closed private group, which AI cannot read, especially if you're smart with your settings. And each one of us has their own language. Right? Most AI depends on the classical representation of language, speech-to-text technology being transcribed. But every one of us is creating their own mishmash of their own language, their own way of articulation, and we're one family, 3 generations of one family. So for AI to be accurate and truly representative, it needs to have the ability to go into our private WhatsApp group and figure out whether Lara's emoji of a smiling face is I love you, Dad, or go to hell, right? So we are very, very far behind from AI being able to truly mine data and understand people. I'll just skip that part, but I'll go to key principles. We all agree, I'm sure, that AI is a fantastic accelerator. It creates wonderful tools which makes things faster and better in every way. It's here to stay, and I think we should all be excited about it. Jobs are going to go, there's no doubt about it, especially in the lower end of the value chain. But at the end of the day, it's the human spirit that counts. Why? Those flaws are only going to become bigger and more problematic, especially in a world where the US wants to step back from its global responsibility and we're kind of recreating a modern digital Wild West. Look at the future, and all of you who are parents here will know this. If you want to know the future, ask your children. And children want authenticity. The people who they follow on Snapchat and TikTok are real people. They know that there are AI influencers and AI models and AI athletes. They find them cool, but they don't follow them. They're not inspired by them. They're not engaging with them. They want authenticity. Now, are they a unique generation? No, we all want authenticity. But it's good to know that in the age of AI, the latest generation cares about authenticity. They might be super connected, but they're still human. I'll conclude with this example. If any of you have been to London in the past couple of years, there's a fantastic AI ABBA concert. So you can go to a concert, 10,000 people in the stadium. Of course, ABBA weren't there. AI-driven holograms of them were there. And they put on a fantastic performance. The 3 of us who you saw, my mother, myself, and my daughter, we were there, singing and dancing. So my apologies if ABBA offends you, I'm a fan. But as we left, I asked my mother, would you go back again? She said, no. Why not? It didn't feel real. So it's cool, but I'm not going back. So ultimately, in the world of people relations, we're going to keep coming back to Gulf Business Breakfasts because we don't want an agent of representing us to come and meet in a virtual 3D room or 4D room and talk to each other. We want to meet each other. We want to be flawed. We want to talk about how cold it is in this room, how good the coffee is. We want to share real-life experiences. It's all about human connections. And if we use our human principles to guide AI, we will be the better for it and continue building a world of trust and not the opposite way around. I hope that helped, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mazen Nahawi. That was an excellent speech. Yeah, that was really interesting. And I'm going to ask you just to stay on stage because you're going to be joining us as part of our next panel. So we're moving on to our next panel, which is on the topic of artificial intelligence. And obviously we've got Mazen Nahawi, the founder and group CEO of Karma, who's just delivered that very interesting talk, who will be joining us there. I'm going to call the other speakers onto stage as well. So if I can please call onto stage Vasudha Khandeparkar, the AI Analytics and Data Practice Lead at Grant Thornton. Thank you very much. Big round of applause. And if we can also have Andries Hasselhoff, who is the CEO and founder of Ombury, join us as well, please. Thank you. And then we've also got Mark Dimmock, who is the operating partner at SC Ventures. Thank you very much. Let's get mic'd up quickly. Okay, great. So thank you very much. I hope that everybody can hear me okay. So obviously this panel is going to focus on the trend of artificial intelligence. It's become, I think, the main trend in technology over the last 2 years or so, especially since the launch of ChatGPT a few years ago. But obviously AI as a trend has been going for many years already, many decades in fact. And I think we've got a very interesting set of speakers who have joined us here today. So Vasudha, I'm going to begin with you because you've got a very interesting role within Grant Thornton where you are effectively heading up the AI practice there. Can you tell us a bit more about how AI is getting incorporated into a corporate like Grant Thornton? How does that work?
So for us, AI isn't just something that we use for our clients. It's something that we actively trial internally as well. So everything that you see across written in the industry and, coming from professional services, the irony of, wanting to sell AI services isn't lost on me. But having done this for as long as I've done it for, there is a certain element of the output. And I think one thing that Mazen mentioned, the personal touch. What is it that I can tell someone or I can add to a business that they're not going to get from the ChatGPTs and the Llamas and the Geminis of the world? What is it that's not there in public domain that's still there within the experiences that every single one of our partners and team members has that's not going to be available in the public domain? So yes, we do use AI tools quite extensively across all of our practice areas for different purposes. We've got it for efficiency. We've got it for something as simple as checking consistency, whether it's cross-branding guidelines, responding to queries, etc. We also use it for a lot of our classification work, but most importantly, it's something that adds value rather than being a driver. Can it help us get to a better output than what we've produced previously for our clients? Or is it just going to be something that's just an add-on, potentially another expense area, rather than being a value addition.
Interesting. And just in terms of what you look at, looking at the UAE market in particular and the demand for integrating AI, whether it's in your business or at a regulatory level, what are you seeing there?
It's interesting because we're right bang in the middle of Dubai AI Week. And I think the fact that we started with Dubai AI Week and that entire focus on AI just about 12, 18 months ago to where we are today, investing heavily not just in infrastructure as we saw earlier, but across every single aspect of how it touches people who live here, who visit here, who work here, is very, very interesting. So the UAE is making strides not just across, sort of government entities at the top level, but there's also sort of distinct investment and focused investment, which is very, very unique to see if you look across the global ecosystem. There is focus. Right now, the focus is on healthcare and technology provision. Then there are next areas identified. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's actually quite a mature approach in terms of the way that the leadership is approaching it, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. So if you look at the work that's coming out of the federal entities, for example, they're putting AI there right out there for their citizens to use and understand how legislation can be interpreted. I mean, there's some fabulous work going on in the municipalities department in Abu Dhabi where they actually have AI that translates any 2D diagrams into 3D diagrams to see how it fits into the ecosystem and how your building will look in a particular community. And that is something that's usable. And it's very useful as well. So it's not just AI for the sake of AI. It's something that makes the whole process of designing your house, building your house, putting yourself in a community that much more personable to you. And I think that's what, to your point, ChatGPT did. It kind of made AI more accessible, and it democratized what was originally considered, science only available to a few. So it's democratized it, and that's what the UAE is doing. It's democratizing not just those LLM examples that we get to see, but we see all of these other use cases that the UAE is actively investing in, and they're making sure that it helps and improves the way in which people are functioning here.
And why do you think that there's such a big focus from the government here on doing that? Because, I mean, AI is everywhere around the world. Why is the government here taking it as seriously as you've mentioned?
It's the ecosystem over here, isn't it? The UAE and the Gulf in general, as we all know, is that melting pot where you get people across different personalities, different backgrounds, different thought processes, different approaches. You do not get that level of heterogeneity in a population in many places. And again, in terms of the data capture, the digital economy has always been very strong here in the Middle East. And I think it helps that they're not averse to an extent to have that regulation go alongside development. So to have yes, I care about the people, I care about the future, and I want to have the two go hand in hand is very interesting to see. And I think that's where that the regs need to change. That development needs to happen. That innovation is taking place in other geographies. So why not here? If you can provide that ecosystem for people to come in, innovate, and support them with appropriate regulation, give them a platform, you're going to see that innovation, isn't it? So if it can happen, if those minds can be brought in, why not? And we're seeing it. I mean, Falcon, for example, was developed with 10% of the team size that was that any other LLM was developed with. And we're seeing we've got all of that capability and capacity here. So why not support them?
So I think I'm going to actually lead on to Andreas now, because I want to touch on a point that Vasudha mentioned, which is, not just doing AI for the sake of AI, but you run a very interesting business called Omberi. Can you tell us a bit more about it? Because you're looking to bring AI to the real world, right? Can you tell us a bit more?
No, absolutely. I think using all this modern technology to really improve the life of the people is something which the leadership here understands has a tremendous potential. And what we are trying to do is really connecting to something which really fascinates me, and it is the fact that all of these tools, everything that's happening in the online world is iterating at such an incredibly rapid pace, right? I mean, if you use ChatGPT today, it's not the same as it was 3 months ago. So everything is moving at such a rapid pace. But we are not seeing the same kind of rapid iteration, the same speed when it comes to leveraging these new technologies in our cities, in our spaces, and all these things. And it really comes down to the fact that it's a factor of, it's exponentially more difficult to not only build these solutions, but also to deploy them and manage them in a reliable way, and then to be able to iterate and deploy new things quickly and really improve people's lives in the physical world, right? And I think this is the challenge that we are trying to solve with the FiGrid platform that we're building at Onbori. Similar to how when Amazon Web Services was launched in 2006, and it just became so much easier to build things in the cloud, and cloud became a concept. With FiGrid, we're trying to create that same layer that enables very rapid iteration in the physical world.
So can you give us an example of how that would impact us on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, here in the UAE, we already see some great examples, I think. I mean, the AI is being used to monitor footfall and relieve congestion, and we have these new traffic cameras now that will make sure that people use their seat belts and that you're not being distracted when you're driving, and all of these things is really improving our day-to-day lives in the end and making us all safer. But I think the next phase is going to be when we move from being reactive and just observing what is happening to starting to anticipate what's going to happen next. And I mean, from my perspective, I think the best technology is the technology that we are not even aware of, but our lives just become easier and more delightful in some sense.
Interesting. So it's going to be embedded in our everyday experience in ways that we might not even know in 5 to 10 years' time.
I think if your day becomes easier and better and you didn't even realize that technology played a part in it, then we have done our job well.
So, Mark, that brings me on to you. I mean, obviously, you've got founders like Andres who have got these really interesting businesses going, really driving forward developments in AI. What are you seeing from SC Ventures' side in terms of the opportunities for startups, for businesses out there that are looking to enter and break into the space, especially in this region?
Thanks. There are so many opportunities. It's a really exciting time. So SC Ventures, as the name implies, is the venture arm of Standard Chartered. We do venture building. We also invest. We're all about fintech, so I guess I bring a fintech perspective to this panel. In the region, we have just shy of 10 businesses now. As someone said on the telecoms panel, I don't think it's one killer app. There are just so many things. If I run through, just with one hand, voice is a big deal. The ability, a lot of the things that we've thought about in fintech are now becoming real. So we have a remittance business here, MyZoy. We have an SME lending platform. A lot of the users are blue-collar workers. They're not necessarily the most, financially sophisticated, small business traders. Those people can interact with their financial services through voice messages on WhatsApp in their own languages. They can instruct to release an invoice, to make the payment, etc. Hyper-personalization, again, is something that has been talked about, but I think is becoming real. We have a wealth business that, finally, you can truly have personalized nudges, recommendations. Here's investment advice that's not generic. It actually truly represents what your position is based on your transactions, etc. Credit underwriting is another one. Again, in fintech, there's been talk of alternative data for a long time. Making loans based on social media activity, all kinds of non-standard things. That is becoming real. We're seeing that deployed, especially in SME lending. An example I think you gave, regulation, is like RegTech is the perfect use case for AI interpreting, what is a mass of regulation. And maybe, last one close to my heart as an ex-CFO, AI-assisted development, you are starting to see probably very different economics to building and scaling businesses. You don't need to, to build tech teams that are as large as you used to. And to some of the talk, I think that's an area that will be impacted for sure. So I could go on, but
so I mean, Mark,
there's
just
sample.
Quickly on all of those use cases that you've listed there. I mean, those are all businesses that are here, local.
Yep. Yeah. And I think the region is actually has a little bit of a leapfrogging opportunity in a sense. In the case of SC Ventures, we're 7 years old. Our initial focus was very much on Asia. In some ways, it's harder to retool those businesses than ones that are AI native from day one.
So yeah, just to build on that, I mean, why does that leapfrogging opportunity exist in the first place? I mean, this region seems to have matured quite a lot in the last decade or so. I mean, what exists here that doesn't exist in Europe or North America or anywhere else?
Well, some of the problems to solve I covered and are best solved by AI. You don't have credit bureau information for SMEs here the way you do in other parts of the world. But I also think everything that Vasudha was talking about, the environment is conducive. The regulatory position is clear. This really feels like the place to be building AI native.
Great. So that brings me back to Mazen and Mazen, I didn't realize when you said that you got, is it 5 kids? 6 kids? Wow. Okay. So you've got your hands full at home. I'm sure that technology is pervading every part of it. From the reputation side, AI, I think, has a very interesting role to play because whether it's content production or creating marketing plans or, deployment plans, it must be impacting your space quite dramatically.
It definitely is. I think we're finding the process of creating content, launching a campaign, distributing content is much faster than ever before. But we're finding that the innovation, creativity that a human being brings is way, way, way ahead of anything we've seen in AI. Way ahead. And I think we're going to end in a place very similar to music or video games. So if you think of music today, artists have been using mixers and technology and sound duplication for generations. But at the end of the day, the artist has to deliver something that a human being was inspired by. Same thing with a video game. You can create great technology, and my son, whenever 5 daughters, 1 son, he hears I'm going to talk at an AI conference. He's like, "Dad, you guys are so old. We've been doing this on PlayStation for years." Sure, it was a defined data set, the way I think of it. But in his mind, it's all AI. And what we're doing is like already 10 years old. So the processes are faster, but the end result depends on the human spirit.
So you say that humans are still important in this whole process. They haven't been completely sidelined yet. And I just want to check that your microphone is on properly there as well. Okay.
I think the idea that technology will displace humans is fanciful. I think it will make humans move into new places, some of which we know, and some of which we are going to discover. But the idea that technology will displace the human being in the center of our lives is fanciful.
So I guess I'll maybe play a devil's advocate on that and also just look at the other side of the coin, because certainly, I don't know if you've looked through LinkedIn lately, but there seems to be a lot of people within the creative space who actually are being sidelined by technology. Either they've lost their jobs recently. There's definitely that perception that is setting in. So, I mean, what is your reaction to that?
I see that all the time. I get their CVs. I read them on LinkedIn. I think many of the people who are losing their jobs are people whose job is process value oriented. The value they deliver is a process value, not an outcome value. And my recommendation to anybody in the creative space or even in coding would be, you need to be able to match your value and your job or your employment or your startup to the outcome that you're delivering. For example, we had a developer meeting in my company. We have 80 developers, and all of them were saying, "Are we done? Do you want any of us? Are only 5 of us going to be here in a year or two?" And our CTO joked, he said, "You're overestimating it. 5's too much." And even though we're quickly shifting away from traditional coding, every one of them is now becoming a business-minded person, thinking up of new products, how to be able to be multi-skilled. Some of them are helping put AI in our finance department, So all of a sudden they're having to create new ways of being relevant, but they have the ability to do so. So we're all going to have to change based on an accelerated process, but we're still going to be here. So those people, I feel bad for them. There will be millions, maybe hundreds of millions who are going to be in a similar position, but don't match your value to process, match it to an outcome.
Okay, interesting. I think I'm going to open up the floor to questions as well. I don't know if there's anybody in the crowd at this stage who maybe has a question for any of our panelists. Okay, not anybody. All right. Well, I've got one final question for everybody, which is, looking ahead from your personal perspective on what is the most exciting development still to come from AI, or a trend that we need to watch out for in the next, say, 5 to 10 years. So, Mark, I think I'll start with you from your side.
Wow, great question. Maybe to just go a slightly different direction, I talked about some fintech examples, but just to touch on what I see happening in the bank, in large corporates, those are super tankers that have not yet turned, are just starting to turn. For many of the reasons, Mazen, in your presentation, you got to be careful. A lot of foundational work has had to go into, data safety. We have a data AI ethics department now. A lot of work with the cloud providers to be able to, safely, securely access their models, etc. So, when it comes to large corporates, I don't think we've even started to see the impact. And, I think that, not going as far as you said, but next 3 years, I think that's going to be really quite transformative.
Vasudha, from your end?
I think adding to what Mark said as well, it's not just the large corporates, but also, funnily enough, the regulated industries, your finance, your fintechs of the world, the banks, but also in healthcare. I mean, you suddenly have access to this large volume of data, which needs to be protected, which needs to be considered with care. But the potential outcomes of something that you build across that foundation of data can be so powerful. It can actually fundamentally change the way in which you treat, disease classes that were previously thought of as untreatable. And I think that will particularly become a lot more exciting as we see not just large data sets, but deep, really good quality data sets emerge in all of the work that's going on.
Okay, well.
I really liked what you said there about the human spirit, Mazen, and I think one of my favorite examples of this is that it's a very long time ago that computers were able to beat any human on chess. But chess tournaments have never been more popular than they are today. So there is something fundamental with the fact that as humans, we like to observe humans and we like to interact with humans. And these things are never going to go away. But things are changing. And we need to accept this. And a lot of people need to change with it. People's roles will change. And I think the number one thing that these new tools enables is agency. Because people that used to be only developers are now designers. The people that were designers are now developers. And you can create a startup just by yourself using all of these tools and generate a tremendous amount of revenue. And I think this is actually one of the things which made me come to the UAE is the fact that I got the feeling every time I visited that this region has a tendency to attract a lot of people with high agency. So that is quite exciting. But of course, if you are a senior developer with a lot of experience and a very niche skill set, it's going to be very difficult to maintain doing what you have been doing before. So definitely, things are changing.
Great. Mazen, final words from you?
Remind me of the question.
So just in terms of how AI is going to impact our world and your space in particular over the next 5 to 10 years, what are you maybe predicting or seeing that's going to have a big change?
Well, I mean, everyone's covered a lot of ground. I think for me, the two main things are use AI properly to the best of its ability and don't fool yourself into thinking it can do things it cannot do, or that it will do things that you should do. So keep it real, basically. The other thing would be the great winners in AI won't be the people who develop technology or the best cloud or the best agent. It's going to be the communities who prepare, regulate an ecosystem of trust and fairness, which keeps people, companies, and communities safe and able to interact with each other in a good and constructive manner. That's going to be the big challenge. And I think we're in a part of the world where governments are largely getting it right. I think they get it wrong in some areas, but on the whole, they get it way better than most others worldwide. And if that kind of ecosystem of fairness and trust and privacy isn't properly enforced, then AI will turn into a very significant detractor and diluter of value and community cohesion.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Vasudha. Thank you, Andreas and Mazen as well. If we can have a big round of applause for what has been a very interesting discussion. Thank you very much. Great. So, yeah, thank you, everybody. I think we can move on to our next session and ask you just to exit the stage, and we'll move on to our next segment of the event. Thank you very much. Which is really our blockchain channel now, panel, which is going to be happening. And we've got some very interesting speakers lined up here, starting with Kikila Ala, who is the founder and managing partner of Calm Legal. I might just, I'll keep this one on for now before she gets mic'd up. And then if I can also welcome up to stage Alice Liu, who is the head of research at CoinMarketCap. And also Rafad Mahesna, who is the CEO of OKX MENA. If we can please have a round of applause for everybody who's coming up onto stage. And joining him will be Faisal Zaidi, who is the president of Escape. And Akos Ursa, who is the director of public policy at BitOasis. And finally, we have Shrinu Chawan, who is the chief marketing officer at Multibank.io. Okay, I think we're waiting for Shrinu to come in. There he comes. Great, excellent.
Right, so I'm just going to pass on the microphone.
All right.
Everybody just make sure their microphones are turned on. Yeah, thank you very much. And over to you, Kakila. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. It's very surprising. We started with telecom, AI, and blockchain. Do you think this is the right chronology? But initially, I think in around the last 10 years, blockchain's been the supreme. AI has taken over us, so we need to do something about it. It'll make it a very interesting panel. All right, good morning, everyone. It's pleasure to be talking to all these people. Some of them I have seen the journey in the last almost a decade. And good to see that we are now talking about a topic which is from pilots to pioneers. And I think all of you represent one segment in the blockchain space where you are pioneer in what you do. Should do a small, quick introduction, or we straight away jump into, we've got a 30 minutes. Yeah? Quickly.
Your show.
Just 10 seconds.
All right, I'll start.
We'll start with you, Rifat.
Rifat Mahasne, CEO of OKX in MENA. We are a exchange and much more than that, and been in the crypto space in specifically the UAE for now almost 5 years, and glad to be with everyone over here. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Alice, Head of Research at CoinMarketCap. We are the #1 website to aggregate any crypto data, pricing data, trading volume, and on-chain discovery tools. Personally, I've been in crypto since 2019. I came from finance background.
Hi everyone, Faisal Zaidi. I am the president of Escape, an interactive media platform. I've been in the crypto space since 2018, 2019. I'm also one of the co-founders of Crypto Oasis. I've grown up in the region, so I've actually seen how this entire ecosystem has transformed over time.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ako Sherje. I'm a director of public policy at Crypto Oasis, which is a homegrown regional broker-dealer virtual assets trading platform. And as part of my role, I look after the business's engagement with policymakers and regulators in and around the Middle East and North Africa.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Srinu Chauhan, and I represent multibank.io. So I'm the CMO there. Multibank.io is a crypto arm within the large financial group called Multibank. I've been in the crypto space for almost a decade now. So I've seen multiple waves of bull and bear markets. So yeah, we can discuss more about it.
Fantastic. So it's a great panel where we've got our homegrown exchange, we've got global exchange, we've got CoinMarket talking about the global trends, and then a very traditional financial sector entering into the crypto space. So, it gives me a lot of pleasure to ask you questions about, we're going to start with general, that 10 years back when we started with the whole blockchain strategy and Dubai announced it in 2014, 2016, we implemented it. Virtual assets became the first use case, and it still primarily stands out the same. So with OKX, let's start with you. You started your journey in UAE by becoming a regulated exchange. Versus we come to you, Akos, what's been your journey? So how do you think UAE is actually placed and helped in OKX become what it is today?
Yeah, thank you for that question. For OKX specifically, I think the time with looking at every market, regulation was a key driver. Which markets are offering the right regulations that fit with the product that we're offering, but also leave space for innovation forward. The UAE, I think, I'm sure most of the panel will share this, you don't only have one regulator, you have multiple regulators looking after this space, which is something that we're fortunate to have, and it's a privilege to be working with all of these regulators, but it gives you an indication of the government's willingness to support the sector and grow the sector further. So when a company like OKX, and I'm not speaking about OKX, there's multiple more, looked at the regulation framework in the UAE, said, look, this is more in line with what we're looking for. So for us, that decision was made early in between 2022, 23, and last year in October, we've launched our fully regulated exchange here. And to be frank with you, couldn't be more happier. I think personally I'm biased, but at least it is one of the best exchanges for OKX, or one of the best markets for OKX, because we've seen how there is room for growth and there's room for continuous innovation. So don't take my word for it. I think one key point is, and you're much more involved in this than I am, but the regulations don't stop. So it started with, let's say, blockchain strategies, then it became digital asset regulation. Now you've got stablecoin regulations. And I'm sure more are going to come around DLT or DeFi or Web3 in the coming future. So you can see that the pattern is not just regulating and stopping, but regulating and continuously improving that regulation to accommodate a very fast-growing sector. So it's things for us are moving very fast, and it's great to be in a market where you can move regulation in tandem.
One question that's always come to my mind, like, see, I'm on the other side. We're the lawyer, and we like to be in the box and do it. How's the user journey? Like, do you see an increase in a conversion of, or people coming to your platform a lot more because now you're fully regulated? Does that give you an edge in your whole business space?
Absolutely. I think it opens maybe two types of new conversations that weren't necessarily the case, not just for us, for everyone. On one side, there is the idea of ecosystem and talent. Before, and again, you're in the sector, and most of the people here are in the sector for years, in 2019, 2020, finding talent or partners in this space in the UAE was still pretty much a challenge. Today, you're finding more talent, you're finding more, your custodian is down the road, your insurer is down the road, there's a banking partner. All of these things moved very fast, which led to the second category. Now we've been able to attract new clients that were, I would say, on the sidelines watching what's happening with crypto. So regulated financial firms in the TradeFi world are looking at this and saying, okay, this is a regulated business. We can send money on and off ramp through banking in the UAE. There's certain compliance requirements, there's certain regulations that govern these exchanges. So we're much more open to working with such exchanges. And we've seen, I'd say, a big shift in the appetite of such firms to go into the crypto space. So crypto, unlike, or let's say digital assets, unlike other industries, was heavily retail driven at first, and now institutional business catching up, which is great to see. But again, this is only possible due to, like you mentioned, regulated firms operating in this market.
Amazing. That brings me to you, Akos. You started the journey when it was a pure Wild West. 2016, 2017 was BitOasis?
It was 2016 we became operational. So that's right. I think, look, BitOasis, as I've mentioned, started back in 2016 with, well, at times simple, at other times not so simple mission of providing our users and our community with a safe, secure, localized, and regulated way to buy, hold, and sell virtual assets. And as you've mentioned, we've started a good few years before any sort of regulation was in place domestically. And because of our commitment to, or dedication to offering our services in a compliant and regulated way, we sought opportunities to engage with the public sector and regulators very early in our journey. So in 2021, we became the first WASP to be registered with the FIU here in the UAE. Shortly after VARA was launched in early 2022, we got our provisional operating permit. Shortly after that, in 2023, we were the first broker dealer, I believe, to get the operational MVP license. And then at the end of last year, we've got our full VARA license. So we've had the pleasure of sort of growing with the ecosystem and growing as the regulatory clarity sort of came into place. And I think this close engagement that we've had with the regulators and the public sector more broadly in the UAE and beyond was important for three reasons, really. One is because we felt that it is the right thing to do. The second reason is that increasingly the baseline expectation of our users, whether that's retail or institutional, is essentially the baseline expectation is that you need to be regulated. The service that, or the product that you provide needs to be regulated or approved in some way, shape, or form. And the last sort of reason for this close engagement is because, to echo Rifat, I think there's a very important feedback cycle between sort of WASPs pushing the needle when it comes to innovation, and then that in turn informing the regulation that then in turn enables sort of us to innovate more. And we are very fortunate to have sort of regulators in the region, and specifically in the UAE as well, who have an open door policy, who are very open to feedback, and who, as Rifat has mentioned, continuously iterate on their framework, right? And this efficiency of this feedback cycle is very, very important, and I think it's partially the reason why the market is where it is today, and why the ecosystem just keeps on growing.
And it would also have been interesting for you to have your users who in 2016 were used to a very non-KYC environment to a regulated space. So do you think a tremendous applause should go even to the retail users here in UAE who are adapting to this? Yes? Interesting. This brings me to you, Faisal. Today is X Space, but I know you from the days of Crypto Valley, Crypto Oasis. Yeah. So again, building a community from the time when we were just discussing to where we are.
Well, when we started, it was already on its way. When we started Crypto Oasis over here, getting some people in the room was very difficult. Like, we did over 150 events over 2 years. Like, there was times when we were doing meetups on the weekend where there was just 4 people, and then it went up to 500-600 people. And that in turn, like when we did our talks at Madinat Jumeirah, when we did the first anniversary, that's when it actually exploded. Like, we had people packing up the entire Madinat Jumeirah. And that in turn now, you can see a testament to the community growing and the ecosystem growing. Well, next week Token starts, and that's in its 2nd year. And now there's over 300 side events. There was a time where you'd have 1 event a week, and it was very difficult to get projects to come and talk about what they were doing. Getting people in the room was very difficult. So it has grown up, and the regulations and the companies that are coming in and setting up over here, all of that is helping to do that. And it's built the UAE, primarily Dubai, as the hub for crypto globally. It is easier to set up, and you've got an entire community that's over here. And you've got the transient population that comes in when required, leaves when required. So it has grown quite a lot over time.
Amazing. Alice, this is what the question for you is. How do you compare UAE as a market to the rest, and since you cover globally?
Yeah, sure. So to echo the first point you made when we sat down, you asked, is this a good flow of discussion? I think it indeed very good flow. Why? And why we're here sitting today. Crypto is the next wave of innovation. There are a few things that UAE is leading in the market. RWA, real world assets. Right now, the market cap for that is around 46 billion USD. And if you look globally, that is excluding stablecoins. There are a few things that Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and the rest of the UAE do really well. I see 3 things they are leading compared with the rest of the world. Number 1 is digital tokenized real estate. And I'll drop a pin, I'll come back to this. Number 2 is gold, so tokenized gold. Number 3 is stablecoins. And at the bottom of this is the regulation, is the first point that you made. There are a few special challenges to the UAE market. There are very different regulatory entities, and the pin that I dropped on real estate, let's talk about that. For example, DLD that we're saying they are already estimating the tokenized market for real estate in Dubai is going to grow around 7.8% for the next 3 years. And they see that trend coming together with DAMAC issuing $1 billion worth of bond on Mantra. A lot of these movements that we're seeing moving forward, Dubai is a very good market for that, and we are indeed leading in the rest of the world. And number 2, when it comes to tokenized gold, there are a few great case studies that are already happening in Abu Dhabi. So coming to your point of the question, what is the UAE market leading and how are we fitting to the global market? The progress we're seeing with VARA, a lot of the regulation lessons that you've been talking about and discussing, really set the foundation right for us, and I think there's a huge market for us to take and grow here.
Amazing. And then in this growing market, that's why we see a multi-bank getting into this space. Yes.
So we have realized that, again, multibank, just for those of you who don't know, multibank is like one of the largest TradFi platform who has, entered into the crypto side of things as well. Almost 30% of our users trade crypto on TradFi business, right? So that kind of given us a natural hint that most of our users have a strong appetite to trade crypto 24/7 rather than 5 days a week as compared to the TradFi business. So that kind of given us an options to say that, hey, okay, let's look at the market and see what are the potential hurdles that users are experiencing and how can we actually add value, right? So we have about 17 licenses in different jurisdictions, and that has given us a massive competitive advantage. And to top it off, we also have one of the highest on-ramp, off-ramp, solution offering, right? So that kind of makes us easy for us to, offer the crypto as a solution to most of our users. So going back to your point, why the shift from TradFi to crypto? I think one, the opportunity is huge. The second, the market, across the world, right? Not just in UAE, it's immense, right? In terms of whole new generation of users are coming into the crypto side of things in terms of trading, etc. In fact, there are like first-time users who have been doing the crypto trades a lot as compared to other TradFi products, right? And the third one is, the value that we bring onto the table, which is the license and the on-ramp, off-ramps. So those are the major reasons why we see that, the whole new wave of, the crypto adoption will be driven into the ecosystem. Also, unfortunately, I see very few TradFi business getting into crypto, and I really love to see more of these well-established business kind of getting into it, apart from the institutional adoptions, right? Of course, companies like, platforms like OKX and BitOasis, all of these platforms have been existent and they are like crypto native platforms, right? And on top of it, there's also entire Web3, which is like, decentralized wallet and decentralized exchange, which is also kind of making even the crypto native companies to kind of catching up to. Of course, OKX has its own Web3 wallet, but there are very few, again, crypto native platforms who has their own Web3 wallet and DEX platforms, etc. So it's super fast evolving market, and it is almost difficult for most of the traditional companies to, kind of play catch up.
Yeah, from TradeFi to CFi to DeFi, all of this happening in the small market space. And still we go out and talk about, when people ask us, what is the use case? What are we building up here? And then I say, okay, you should come to these panels and see what is being cooked on. So on that, how an OKX is able to operate as a CFI, like you, very centralized, regulated, and build up the DeFi products. The innovation is always at the core, because this panel is about blockchain. Let's go back to the core. All of us talking here about, has the technology been the main driving force behind it? Where do you think blockchain fits in here? Like, it makes it easier for your global expansion?
It does. Definitely plays a big part, because the technology is what interests people in this space. However, technology alone, I think, needs to have additional surrounding boosters to get that technology into market. I'll give you the case of TradFi into crypto. We commissioned a survey with economists last year, and looked at multiple institutions to say, what is stopping you today from entering the crypto space? A lot of them, 70%, said we're definitely interested. However, there's key areas that we want to know: custody, compliance, and risk. So blockchain itself clearly interests those firms, but custody, compliance, and risk were their key concerns that they need to address, because they have their own internal teams and risk parameters that they need to follow. So we looked at custody and said, look, how can we bridge the gap between TradFi and the digital assets world? So recently we announced a partnership with Standard Chartered, where an institution will have custody of their assets with Standard Chartered, however, could still trade with the OKX platform. So that solves for many to have a tier 1 bank holding their digital assets is a big comfort zone for many of the clients. The second piece on compliance and risk, we're open to information from clients. Clients can come and ask us, how do you deal with your custody operations? Regulation is obviously clear point about compliance. And what are your risk parameters around managing your exchange? These are information that we can talk to clients about and give them more comfort. Which sets the stage for DeFi. I think, again, DeFi is definitely blockchain driven. Most of the innovation that's going to continue coming into DeFi, I think the use case in a lot of the DeFi projects or DeFi innovations is going to be the next area of question. Is this just another DeFi project, or does it convert to real life utility? I think for most of the common projects that are coming up, that's most of where the community is asking, okay, I like this project, I like what they're doing. Does it bring utility to me? Is there a real life application of this? And this is a continuous discourse that's going to happen, and it's actually healthy to happen. But definitely to wrap up around your question, we wouldn't be here without blockchain. I think it's definitely a key driver for all of these things.
Yeah, I think one of the key things for UAE is that despite having heavy regulations, we've still made sure that innovation's there. You know, we're all striving for that. BitOasis, interestingly, has been a case study. Like, I have written a lot of my research papers internally, never published any, where we talked about this whole principle-based approach. And I'm a big fan of it. And I have used your case study as it. So I think that would be also something that you could highlight, that how you've grown from that environment to a completely rule-based, you know, by regulating, by being regulated.
Sure. So look, I think the principles-based approach to regulation that you've mentioned is really quite significant, because that's in part what enables the regulators and the rule books they have to dynamically evolve with the market. So as new use cases, like practical use cases like, you know, stable coins, tokenization emerge, it's important that the regulators can keep pace with how the tech evolves, simply because of the feedback cycle that I've mentioned earlier in terms of use case, maturation, innovation, regulation, and it starts again. From BitOasis's perspective, I think we found that this close engagement with regulators is crucial from the perspective of this feedback cycle as well. And I think what makes the region really quite unique is that we've never really found closed doors when it comes to the regulators. If we wanted to have a conversation, if we wanted to share our experience, share concerns, or if we wanted to have a discussion about how to move forward, right? So, and I think that's something that we really value in our work with the public sector more broadly as well in the UAE and beyond. I think in terms of our journey, what has been, you know, moving an unregulated platform, so to speak, to a regulated space, and it's not an easy task. Obviously, we've been operating almost for 10 years at this point. I think what has been crucial for that is sort of fostering a shift in mindset internally as well. As we moved, through the licensing process and transitioned to a regulated status, it has allowed us to build this culture of regulation first, compliance first, which our users, quite frankly, expect us to have. And this has also facilitated our conversations with the regulators. So I think this internal shift has been very, very important, and it has served us really well. And now, as we look beyond the current license we have, it's going to be something that is going to be very, very useful and important moving forward as well.
Yeah, this mind shift, that we're experiencing is interesting. And Faisal, this brings me to the conversation we were having about how games play an important role. Everybody's talking about gamification. Everybody's talking about earn to play. So now at X Space, where you are doing the incredible work that you're doing, do you see moving to Web3 at some space, or are you already seeing that Web3 is a...
So just to let everyone know about Escape. So we're an interactive media platform that is working on 4 different verticals. We've got over 100 games. We've built more than 15.1 million square feet of virtual space, again, in games that people have something to do in the metaverse, which was the initial problem with the metaverse, not having anything to do.
Yeah.
Great environment, but you don't know what to do over there. So we've created engagement there. We've got a social platform internally, and we've got a marketplace. Now, once you're playing the games, we have a tournament running for 7 days, at the end of which you have the top 5 players that win points that you can redeem in the marketplace. Now, there's 3 very simple use cases that come in for us. The first is, because we're giving away points, those transactions to be on the blockchain. Because in countries, even over here, you have to get a notary and you have to show them that this is what we're doing so that we actually deliver what we're advertising. The second is the points that we give, what are the players going to hold it in, right? So a wallet comes into play. And then the marketplace. So we have physical goods, we've got digital, and we can look at putting in digital assets. But one of the things that we're doing, we're not putting blockchain up front and center, which I think we pushed blockchain too hard, which is why some of the startups didn't really get up there. We're going to have it's water under the carpet. People don't need to know that they're using blockchain. So while the transactions, that's for our records, the wallet is where they're holding their assets, they can take the assets out. And in the marketplace, they can go and exchange them. So we are in conversations with a few blockchains to see which one fits our norm. But our main goal to move to Web3 is not to disturb the user journey. We don't want to educate them about the blockchain, because markets like Africa, people don't even have bank accounts. So they're still far away in Web 1. And using our platform, using DCB, which is direct carrier billing, working with the telcos directly, where their mobile number is how they pay, bringing them into blockchain, there's going to be a huge amount of adoption, but we're not going to be pushing for them to be educated in blockchain, because they can still continue doing what they're doing while the infrastructure layer turns into blockchain.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I've always noticed, that people have talked about blockchain openly, and then I'm like, do we discuss coding as much as we discuss blockchain? Because this is at the back, this is an infrastructure layer, and we leave it at that. Like, I have had clients who would come back and say, but I don't understand this. I said, there's no need for you to understand. Look at the utility, look at what's being built up, and leave the rest of it to still the developers and coders who are sitting and solving that problem. On that, when Multibank got into this space, and now when you see growing much into it, do you see any resistance coming from the board that this is high risk, we should look, not look? How do you do that fine balance between innovation and then continuing being the traditional player that you are?
So, one of the very best narrative of use of technology is, people use it, but they don't even realize that they are using a particular technology that's behind, right? I think that's how we should be moving toward it. Unfortunately, within the crypto ecosystem, being for almost 10 years or so, there's always been this narrative of technology and the push towards it, like with Web3 and everything else, right? So I think the shift should happen, and focus should be more on the real world utility and the focus of driving the real changes of how it's adding value to the user. On Multibank side, again, we've looked at different narratives and seeing where we can add massive value to the user, because that's where we want to see, again, we just don't want to launch another platform because we see an traction, but we want to launch something that is adding value to the users, right? And on that, we are looking at something like, let's say, real world asset use case, where in reality, again, it's all the buzz these days, but again, as Alice, you mentioned that we are using USDT, which is nothing but a real world asset, right? And we are using it on a daily basis to trade and stake, yield, etc. So the narrative that we are looking at is, okay, can we look at I don't know, real estate is one of the very popular use cases, right? And see how can we tokenize real world asset, which is in this case real estate, and give users certain key benefits, right? Which is high yield. And also a fractional ownership of a particular real estate, right? Which would be traditionally very difficult for a normal person, because they have to especially in UAE, for example, you have to pay 20% down payment, and you need to the prices are increasing 50% year on year in terms of real estate. So that was one of the very strong use cases we've realized, and we've said that the Multibank as a platform is poised for a few reasons. First, obviously very strong regulatory environment. The second, on-ramps, off-ramps. So, even if you have to tokenize the real estate, users have to first convert their fiat currency into the USD or one of the stables, and then buy a fraction of real estate. So that kind of enables us to give more product suited for them. And the third aspect is high yield bearing asset as well. So I mean, if you just look at like what is right now, I think 4 to 5% is the average yield on US treasuries. But if any asset that is giving you like 8 to 10%, that's like really good in this market, right? So we are looking at those options. Again, we'll give more information on those things. Just keep an eye out, but more to come soon.
Yeah, that brings us to that. What are the next trends that we should be looking at, Alice?
Yeah, sure. Echoing what everyone mentioned, there are two bottlenecks for us to bring more people into onto blockchain and into Web3. Number one is everyone mentioned about regulations, to which the UAE is very advanced, because regulation is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And right now, look across the world, we have European Union as well as UAE leading this space in terms of regulations. Number two, user experience. For every time that you divert user from one platform to another, you lose 75% of those users. So that's why people are mentioning about how do you make a Web3 experience seamlessly. And to your point of what's next for us, once these two, given that we are leading this space for both the regulation as well as user experience, then that's going to push us onto the adoption phase. Now, a lot of the big crypto exchanges have started to either register in the UAE or bring their headquarters here. So number one thing we're going to see coming into 2025, the rest of the year, is definitely a wide adoption of users, of crypto users via centralized exchange. I think that's very much still a strong trend here. Number two, coming back to the first point I made, real world assets, so tokenized real world assets. And that comes into real estate, that comes into gold, and also AED native stablecoins. That's another trend we're seeing. So these two are the most imminent ones. And on top of that, I think Dubai has always been the home of meme coins. So I know that's almost like a forbidden word right now, but it's still a very much popular trend in crypto that we're seeing to help adopt more users into crypto, because it does provide fits a special purpose, I guess.
No, I completely agree. And finally, I found someone who echoes and believes in meme coins. For me, that this is the community. This is what we're building.
Excellent.
Now. And another less than I think. So I like what I liked about, sorry, we're deviating from the topic. What I like about meme coins is that it's not making the noise of a NFT. It made its noise. It drove a weekend crazy with a president coming in power, launching it and moving there and shaking the market. But it's growing. If you watch and see how it is growing, and very soon the regulators will have to look at it. This is driving a large force.
And I hope UAE leads in that regulation front.
Yes, my wish too. All right, any questions for the panelists here? No, I think we all did a great job. Oh, there is, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I can take it quickly. So the reality is, again, like, previously engaging with B2Ss as well. So banking relationship is quite fundamental, and, to drive the mass adoption, period. There's no conversation about it beyond that, right? But the problem is, even from a banking perspective, they have to follow certain stringent rules and laws in place, right? Now, every time we onboard a customer, and if they want to deposit the local currency, like in terms of fiat, AED, right? They have certain set limits which they cannot go beyond, right? But in crypto, you don't have a, you don't have a minimum limit. Generally, there are some users who trade even if I want to send it to, let's say, to your wallet, I can send like $500 million worth of crypto in USDT in a matter of 10 seconds and pay like $5 max, right? Done, no questions asked. But try and do the same on traditional finance, right? You have to go through your banking relationship and they have to go through certain exceptional approvals, and then the amount needs to be processed. It's a very long, tedious process, right? But the point which I'm trying to highlight is, yes, banking sector, and they have to step up, but that's a reality we have to deal with. And this is an ongoing issue since like last 4 or 5 years or so, right? And the same goes with, I'm sure with OKX and BitOasis as well, they would have had their share of banking licenses. Earlier days, I remember even sometimes if an institutional investor want to deposit like $10 million, the moment they try and deposit, that's it, our bank account gets seized, right? And then we have to go through a lot of back and forth conversation and do like KYC of the investor, and then that takes like another 4 to 5 days. Until then, the banks cannot reopen our account. And then again, we face similar incident whenever there's these big spikes in the market, etc. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for that, but the reality is that this is something that even banking sector, they realize, and they are working towards putting some solutions in place. There is an interesting example that I can give called Lean Technologies. So they are like a Plaid equivalent of US. So they try and seamlessly integrate with all the banks, and you can just deposit without even leaving the platform. Let's say if you're using even multi-bank in that sense, right? You don't need to leave the app, and you can just deposit money from your local bank account into the platform instantly, right? But again, they too have certain limits. So there are some small progress that's happening, but not a transformational progress that is needed to drive the mass adoption.
So, thanks. So there is, just like Srini said, there is progress that's happening. Just looking at the real estate sector, I was heavily involved in the real estate sector. You've got organizations like Real Trust that are doing up to 10 to 15 crypto transactions in real estate right now. You've got Fuse that's doing quite a bit, where they've integrated with the likes of EMEA, Damak and stuff for accepting crypto payments. So I think there's a huge role for third-party service providers in the middle that are managing this right now. And there's quite a lot of them that are coming in every day.
And let's not forget, crypto started as a solution for, we don't like banks. And then all of a sudden we think, banks are not cooperating. Well, our narrative throughout, in the early days, I remember everywhere, it's for the unbanked, it's for the people, it's the problems that we have with banks that this is the solution. And then going back to the same enemy and saying, you're not cooperating, it's going to be a little challenging. But interesting, what's happening here in UAE especially is on the stable coins. When you have the AED stable coin, and yesterday what has happened with Fuse, a brilliant example, broker-dealer, you can do off your own off-ramp, on-ramp, Biobank provides the platform. Now they've got a license for retail payment. So now I can actually be on the same platform, in the same ecosystem. I don't need to go to the bank. The VASP, the virtual asset service providers, already taken care of that. So the user interface and the journey is becoming a lot better. And then the struggle for VASP is going to be always the client money account, but that's something that you got to live with.
It improved.
Yeah,
Improved
quite a bit. And Zand and with CBD, Rackbank all opening to it. So we're making that progress, and we just all wish and hope that it was much faster.
Yeah, but how do you think the e-dirham, the CBDC that's going to come out from the central bank, that would make this a lot more easier, wouldn't it?
Yes. So now we have a CBDC in UAE and we have stablecoin. So we are again in that space where we have simplified the user journey. So by the year end, we will see who wins, or both of them are going to be here. All right, any other questions, or are we good before we get into the afternoon? No, we good? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. That was a fantastic panel, and yeah, a big warm round of applause for everybody, please. Thank you. You did an amazing job. Thank you so much. Great, so thank you everybody who has made the effort to come here today. I'll just deliver some short closing notes. I think we've learned a lot across the board. We've covered a lot of bases today, from telecoms and cloud through to AI and blockchain. I think that's pretty much the entire tech ecosystem that we've looked at, and I hope that everybody's enjoyed it and that you've learned a lot. I certainly have. And thank you to everybody who's come, and we'll see you at our next business breakfast briefing. Thank you. Shukran.